If you're new to the channel, my name is Jonathan Joel Mentor. I'm the founder and CEO of Successment. We engineer startup revenue for uninvited startups right here from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. Unlocking startup capital as a digital nomad. How do you do it? How do you get it done? Who to contact? What are the challenges? What are the unique opportunities? So first things first, you have to shift from begging for funds and starting to frame your fundraising as a can't miss investment opportunity. You have to understand, if you're a venture capitalist and you put yourself in those shoes, you have to understand that your startup represents an opportunity. They're not banks. They're not loaning you money. They don't expect a short-term return. What they do expect for you to do is blow the matrix off of their investment. They're going to try to invest with high leverage, low entry point, with capital, and usually the capital houses, the venture capitalists, the angel investment networks in the Caribbean, they're much smaller. They have a lower deal flow. So you have to understand, you represent a deal to them. They're in the business of investing in venture. So if you happen to find one, you have to present yourself as the opportunity, not as some kind of charity case. When raising money abroad, one of the most powerful tools that you can deploy in your tool belt are going to be accelerators that are located outside of the US or that have reach outside the US. We're thinking Techstars, we're thinking Founders Institute, we're thinking even the smaller accelerators and incubators that have capital tied to them. You can do that. Even if it's an incubator or an accelerator that's not particularly tied to capital, they're the ones obviously who are going to have angel networks and VC networks and things like that. So if you haven't already thought about how you're gonna go about it, whether you're located in Japan, whether you're located in the Caribbean, whether you're located somewhere in Latin America, Africa, doesn't matter. As long as you understand what that ecosystem looks like and you target them with the very unique benefit for them to invest early in your startup, and you cater your messaging and your pitch deck and your traction metrics and the overall benefit to them becoming involved with you, it's gonna be a plus. One of the biggest things that I've noticed outside in the smaller ecosystems here in the Caribbean, specifically like Santo Domingo and Trinidad, Tobago, Jamaica, Panama, Colombia, etc., is that they're actually very press conscious, right? They like a lot of prestige. So if you're able to get institutional, meaning like government buy-in, you get some government representation, you have somebody, these conversations are not as difficult, right? In the US, for example, you have to fly all the way to Washington, D.C. to get federal oversight. If you're in one of the states, you have to sit there and you have to talk to a mayor or a capital. Everybody is relatively accessible when you're in emerging markets. And if you speak the language that they identify with, meaning what initiatives do they have going on? What are the policies that they're putting out? What are the programs that they've historically been involved with? Who have they sponsored? What are their press releases like? You can start to spin a story that really speaks to them. And that speaks directly to whatever VCs are around, whatever institutions or programs that might be available to you. And in this way, you can get really, really creative about raising capital as a digital nomad. Now, if you're going to be doing a fundraise for your startup in emerging markets, specifically outside of the US, outside of the UAE, you need to understand a couple of things. Number one, the nepotism is real. If you don't know an inside guy, a cousin, a brother, a sister, a friend of whomever's running that VC firm, good luck getting in. So you might want to try to gain visibility in creative ways. That's one way. A second way is by going towards big industry leaders like financial groups, banks that may be interested in the kind of technology that you're innovating. The way that you can pitch them is that you compare them and their internal like corporate governance to the way that big companies like Amazon and Google and Apple have internal innovation centers in the US, and they in turn invest in internal startup projects to forward whatever industry interest that they have. So let's say you're developing like an insurtech company. You might want to go to an insurance group and pitch them and say, hey, are you guys interested in spending your innovation budget this way? Because one of the things behind the scenes that I've learned about being a digital nomad and pitching is that a lot of the corporations that are abroad, they don't even have the internal governance to invest per se in venture capital. So although it might take some convincing, once you get around that, your next your next milestone or your next thing to conquer is going to be the gatekeepers and the who knows who kind of background. But once you get around that and you get in front of the right people and they have the right decision-making power, it should be very easy for you to get past those, you know, initial barriers, which are the big ones, and then you get to raise some capital abroad, which is pretty cool. If you're going remote, it depends on what your goals are. You could be a US investor and you're an expat in a place like Dubai or Silicon Valley, or, you know, Dominican Republic like I am, or even like in the Cayman Islands, who has their own Cayman venture tech community. It all depends on the angle, but most of the times, most of the major VCs, whether they're US based or based in the EU or anywhere in the world, they're gonna have online portals. So you can start the online application by submitting your pitch online and getting all of the materials, and you'll quickly be able to find out if one of their requirements are indeed that you're located in the situs country. If you're not located in the situs country and they have the flexibility, there are a lot of funds that are interested in emerging markets. You might simply be based outside of the US and live outside of the US, but your business might have a plan to enter the US. VCs love that you come at them creatively, so use your location to your advantage. But one thing that I do suggest is definitely have your primary entity located in a very, investor-friendly tax environment. We're talking Cayman Islands, Switzerland, or Delaware. The game doesn't change just because you're located somewhere different. As long as you put together what your traction metrics are, if you have any recurring revenue metrics, if you're able to talk about what phase you're in, whether you're pre-seed, pre-MVP, pilot phase, Series A, or later stage, these are the things that they're really going to be looking for. Unless the VC startup thesis in whatever fund or accelerator that you're pitching happens to have a mandate that is limited to a specific geographic location, game on. ChatGPT, Gemini, other AI sources are going to be your best friend in terms of researching which kind of VC funds would be interested in a digital nomad who's running a startup, whether the operations are in the country that's abroad or whether the operations are not in the country and they're in the country of the VC that you happen to be pitching. And if you like this video, this is part of my Digital Nomad weekly series in the magazine called Dominican Today. So you can read it in print. And if you haven't liked and subscribed, it does a lot for the channel. So do me a favor and hit that button.